65 at the time. I was, already wondering, what was I going to do? Was I going to stay at this company because there was no reason for me to leave? And I remember that moment, leaving DC, coming back to Pennsylvania and saying, I'm not going back to work today because I've had it. I need a little bit of a break, a mental break. So I met up with a friend, and she is younger, quite younger. So she has a child in school. And she said, okay, come on over, but we have to go pick up Grace and take her to the horse barn. So we're driving up this dirt road in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, country road. And she said, I come up here every day, and I think they're making a movie over there. And she pointed over, and I looked over, and sure enough, it looked like a film was being made. So we went up, dropped off Grace, came back down, and I said, stop for a minute. So we stopped on the side of the road, dirt road. It was a March day. It was blustery, dark sky, but there was a little bit of sun peeking through onto these craggly trees that lined a long driveway that went to a really old, strange looking farmhouse. And right then I said, I bet I know who's making this film, M. Night Shyamalan. And she said, well, why would you think that? And I said, well, you obviously don't know him. He lives here in Pennsylvania, and he tends to film spooky movies in spooky looking locations. So I pulled out my iPhone. We continued to sit there, and I punched in his name in the internet, and up came this article: M. Night Shyamalan filming a micro budget film in Chester County, Pennsylvania. And then all of a sudden, up came this picture of exactly where I was sitting, with the craggly trees going down the driveway. And I thought, well, it's certainly him. And then we continued to sit there because we were laughing about it. And there was a little red button that said Charity Buzz. So I hit that, and I found out that he had a wonderful educational foundation, but it was Charity Buzz was letting me bid to win a day on the set with M. Night Shyamalan. It was bizarre. So we were sitting there laughing. I started bidding. The bidding went on for 2 weeks. It got a little bit hefty. I said, hey, to my husband, by the way, I'm bidding on, trying to win a day on the set. And he didn't think that was odd at all, knowing me. And he was like, well, I hope you win. Good for you. So short story, sitting at work one day, knew that it was the time they were going to announce it. So I had my phone kind of propped up next to my computer, and up it came: Melissa Davey, you win a day on the set with M. Night Shyamalan. So 2 weeks later, I spent 10, 12 hours with him and his entire crew doing a day on the set. And I mean, behind the camera with him. I thought he was going to put me in a chair so I could watch, but I actually got to be with him, and wherever we went, we were together. He was telling me what he was doing. The crew was talking with me, telling me what they were doing. And at lunch, this is the kicker, at lunch, he said, what do you do for work? And remember, I'm about old enough to, I would say, be his young mother. And so I was trying to explain Social Security, disability, and risk management, insurance companies, and he kind of glazed over, and he looked at me and said, what do you really want to do? And I said, oh, I want your job. And he said, well, you better hurry up. So that was like a 10-second conversation, and he was kidding around. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that he's absolutely right. I've been sitting here trying to figure out, what do I want to do? I want to do this. So it sounds nutty, but that's how it happened. And I went home that night, late that night, and my husband said, how did it go? And I said, it was the best experience I've had in decades. And I am going to quit my job and become a filmmaker. So once again, my husband kind of, okay, he knows that I get excited about things. So he kind of just said, okay. And the next day, I gave a year's notice because I needed to do that to mentor someone else to take over the program. And during that year, I started creating this film project and getting the people that I needed to help me do it: a production company, and whatnot. And I lined up the first 3 interviews before I left the company. So I actually had something to walk into that was already in progress. And that's how it began.
That's amazing.
It's
And
great.
I'm guessing you heard a lot of incredible stories during all of those years in your corporate work with some of your clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and please, everybody, put your questions in the chat, or you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask. And while you're thinking, can you tell us just how you found these subjects? I'm sure that's a long story for each one, but you really found the most extraordinarily uplifting people, and they're all so different and so articulate. And I think we can all find ourselves in some of them. So you can just give a general idea of how you found them.
I started Googling looking for stories, and frankly, the stories of women over the age of 60 were people like Oprah, you know, and I thought, no, I don't want Oprah. I want people like me that nobody would know that have a story to tell.
Mhm.
And I started asking friends, and I was getting referrals, and I was just cold calling people, and talked to about 80 plus people in 1 year.
Mhm.
And then from those people, I picked these 9. And I think I picked them because each one of us connected in a special way. And I felt that they were pretty representative of many different types of women with many different types of stories,
Right.
but all very resilient people, and uplifting and still moving forward and not looking backwards. I mean, they're just very positive people. So it ended up that I asked them and they all said yes, which totally amazed me,
Right.
because here I am with no background in film, and they trusted me to tell their stories, and they didn't see the film until it was completed and ready to go. So, you know, that's big trust.
Right.
And I am very humbled by that. Very, very humbled by that.
You are such a natural, though. It's just so clear, and it's wonderful to watch you listening so much throughout the film with all of the different subjects in their own environments, and then they were just so open in speaking with you. We have Abby is asking, what is your next film project?
My next film project. I have one that just failed, meaning that it was going to be starting soon and the people pulled out. They probably won't do it for another year. So I've just started discussions with a woman in Pennsylvania, a younger woman this time, to do her story about immigration. So hopefully that will pan out.
Yeah.
And you know, you constantly are looking for stories, and there, if you look hard, you'll find some incredible ones. So hopefully that will be my next one.
Right. And I guess the timing, this came out in, was it 2016?
No, 18. We completed it in 18, and then in 19 we spent a year on the road at film festivals. My goal was to try to get into 1, and we got into 8. So we were traveling around going to film festivals with it. And then distribution I was hoping for in 2020, but COVID hit.
Exactly.
And everything stopped. So that didn't pick up again until the end of 2020. And I didn't get a distributor until Christmas time, and then it was put out for distribution to the general public just in April of this year.
Okay. Yes, another person had asked about festivals, so I'm hoping that you will get a separate. I know festivals are so current, but I hope there is another way to get it out there on the big screen. You know, because it is such a great shared experience. And I have a lot of different sources in finding films, and I had read so many wonderful reviews about it, and it was, you know, in a lot of the journals that I order films from. So it's definitely out there, which is great. My good friend and colleague Victoria is asking, and that was a question I was going to ask too. When did you realize that you wanted to interview the younger females?
You know, I hooked up with a production company out of Philadelphia called Expressway Productions, and they were all of the guys, and it was guys that were the initial group that I started working with. They were all between the ages of 26 and 35. And which was a surprise to me that they were interested in working with me on this, but they loved the project. And one of the producers, Jim Madison, who became my partner in crime in this endeavor, who taught me a lot, and he will say that I taught him a lot. He thought it might be a good idea. And so we started bantering around, should I have the film crew at the front and the end, or, so we came up with all kinds of ideas. And then we got in touch with someone that we knew in Philadelphia that knew all these young women entrepreneurs. And so we just said, we threw it out there to see if she would be interested. And she hooked us up with these women, many of whom, those young women that you saw, some of them are on their second or third companies that they're building themselves. They're unbelievable, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just tried it, and I kind of liked it as we went through.
Right. I think that is a big missing link now. There's not enough intergenerational connection. I mean, I feel like my family in Canada that I mainly grew up with, all the older generation, grandparents and great aunts and uncles, and I was always so fascinated. So I feel like that was just built into my sensibilities. So it was never strange for me. I was always interested in them.
Yeah.
Stories, and the music, all of that. But I think maybe if you haven't had that from a young age, it's not quite as natural.
Right. But I also it was a great education. Now, I mean, I had 1,000 employees that worked for me across the country, and most of them were younger than me. So I was always around young people, and I was always amazed by their talents. But it amazes me that these young women that I got to speak with and spend time with, as well as the young people in the production company, they are smart. They are, I will tell you that they are much brighter than I was at their age. There is something I think that gets lost in how we look at young people today. And you hear people complaining about millennials they're lazy or they don't do it. They just work differently than we do, but they are very engaged in life and politics and business and interested and curious about people. So it was a wonderful experience to have that every day for 3 years. I was, with these younger people that were teaching me about cameras and sound and lights and all of that. And I was kind of teaching them about life and having really interesting conversations with them. So.
And you had such a clear respect for them, and you could tell that they sensed that.
Yeah. They're great people, great people.
We have a question from Kim. She's asking what unifying experience or traits or characteristics are shared among all of the women interviewed, and what message for older women or about older women do you hope the film conveys?
I found that there's just this resilience. There's a resilience that lives within all of these women. And I think that's what I was the most attracted to, that no matter what they had been through, no matter how old they were, they were very resilient in popping back and saying, I'm not going to give up. I mean, Pat was the best example of somebody with stage 4 cancer who still was getting up every day and going out to choreograph the Sun City Palms and be the treasurer. And she did pass away this last year. But she worked right up until about a month before she died. And she was remarkable. They were all remarkable in that sense, and that they remained relevant, and that they just didn't pay attention to the marketing and the language and stories that you would see on television about older people, that all old women wear diapers. Please, they were very willing to talk about that, and they were easily able to dismiss it. That this is not who we are. It doesn't matter what we look like. It's our character and what we're giving back to the world, and the fact that we're staying connected. So that's the common theme. And then what did I want people to do? My hope was that anybody watching this film would sit back and think about themselves and think about any elderly people that they might know, and maybe challenge themselves a little bit regarding any type of judgment that they might have about a person, and to see each person as a whole person with a full story and a full life, and find something to take from that.
Right.
It was just, I hope all my films that I get to do will just make people think.
Mhm.
That's all. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And was it Sarah maybe who said, I just need something to do every day, like just
Yeah.
as purpose.
Yeah.
And-
I feel that way.
Right,
I'm almost 71, and I need to know when I get up in the morning that I have something that I need to do. And
right.
it needs to be more than clean the kitchen floor, which I really need to do, but I haven't done in a long time. That's not my favorite thing to do, but I'll get to it at some point. But I want to do something that's going to help somebody in some way. And it might be nothing more than a conversation with somebody.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's great. We had a question about funding. I think you touched on this a bit earlier, but I always wondered about the steps of funding and making a film. Did you have the funds upfront by producers? Did you fund yourself at the start and so forth?
It was mostly self-funded, and that was one of the things that I decided to do so that I could make it quickly. Because a lot of people were telling me, oh, you'll do the funding first, and then in a couple of years you can start filming. Well, these people were very young. So I thought, I can't wait that long. I really want to get started right away. So I made a commitment to a certain amount of money that I had in savings that I would put towards it. But one thing that I did do that was very lucky, you may have seen this at the end of the film where it's special thanks to United Healthcare. When I left Gen X that December 31st, in January was Sundance. And I decided to go out to Utah with my new laptop and my new kind of trailer that I had done at that time, and to show as many people as possible to see if I was on the right track, out of my mind. I was trying to get some kind of real interest and support from people, directors, actors, whatnot. So I went out there for a week, and I just so happened to meet the CEO of United Healthcare. And I knew, because of the business I was in, that they are the largest Medicare insurer in the country. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. He might, well, let me just see. So I asked him if he would sit down and watch my 3-minute trailer. And he said yes. And he looked at my website and he watched it. And then he said, let me watch it again. And I thought, oh, okay. Either it's not good and he needs to watch it again, or there's something in it that intrigued him. So at the end, he said, we have something in common. And I said, yes, we do. He said, so you know what we do? I said, I absolutely do. And that's why I wanted you to watch it. So he said, we have some synergy here, and we're doing a lot of marketing around the longevity of people and keeping engaged and doing new things when you retire, et cetera. So let me take this back and I'll give it to my marketing department and see what they think. And I thought he was being nice. But a month later, their senior VP of marketing called me and said, look, we looked at your trailer and we love what you're doing, and it fits in with something we're doing right now. So we would like to give you some money. And so I was on the other end of the phone thinking, what, give it to me? What do you mean, give it to me? And they said, no strings attached. They wrote me a check for $50,000. And and when I called my attorney to say, look, United Healthcare wants to give me some money, which was a great help, the attorney said, oh, no, 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 no. I've been doing entertainment law for, 45 years and nobody will give you money. I said, no, I think they're giving me the money. And he said, no, they're going to be an investor and you'll have to pay them back. I said, no, I already asked them that. And they said, no, we're giving it to you. So he got on the phone with their lawyers and we all sat and listened when they said, no, we just love what she's doing. We're going to give her the money. If she stops making the film, well, we're out the money, but it's hers to do what she sees fit with. So the lawyer was like, okay, I've never had that happen. So good. whatever you did, good for you.
That's
And I felt like I, I don't know, it was kind of surreal.
yeah,
So constantly the beginning all the way to the middle felt like, okay, this is supposed to be happening.
right,
So it gave me a lot of encouragement
right.
and just made me feel really good about continuing on. So it was self-funded mostly by me, but a little bit by United Healthcare.
That's why we always show the credits right to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. That will never happen to me again. That will never happen.
Never say never.
Is there anybody? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yes, Karen. I just had a question about the process or some of the choices that you made. The film obviously is wonderful and it's engaging and it carries you over the arc all the way to the end. At the very beginning, though, I kept feeling I was longing to learn more about each of the 9 women. You know, we kind of fall in love with them at the beginning of the story, and then suddenly, just as we're getting to know them, that shifts to another person. And I'm
Yes.
wondering what went into your decision making and decide to cut that way rather than having sequential stories, a segment about each one of the 9 women having 9 segments.
Well, great question, and it is asked on an occasion. When I put it together, obviously I had the complete story for each of the women, and we played it that way. And I didn't like it. It was, their stories became too long, and it didn't move enough for me. So, and the producers agreed. So we brought in a focus group because I thought, well, maybe we've just spent too much time with this, and there were days where I thought, I mean, I can lip sync with these people, every word for every one of them. So I thought, well, maybe. So we've tried playing parts of it one way and parts of it the other way. And the focus group was like, no, it's too much it's too long. When you keep their story, instead of breaking it up into almost like a beginning, a middle, and an end, it was sort of like that. We were going for a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we were going for something in the beginning all of them had in common. Like you would hear a comment that would be similar, just like at the end there were some closing kinds of comments. Now, what I do know is that not everybody learns that way, or not everybody visually accepts that way that I ended up doing it. But it was the majority rule at that point. If the majority had said to me, I just want to hear Alelia give her entire story, or Peggy, and I get that with the very first one. That was I did have some issues with when Peggy stops. You don't know who she is yet. You don't know what's going on, and she leaves you with a bombshell, like you're not sure what's going on, and it moves on to someone else. And I kept saying, just hang in with me, audience, because it will start to make sense after the second and then to the third. And I hope that most people get that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the first time you return for the second time to one of the women, that's going to be the case with most of them.
Yes.
Which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Yeah. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Although you do bring in a couple of new people in the course of the film. It's now they don't
right.
all start they're not in sync.
Exactly. Exactly.
The pom-poms.
I mean, they could have their own movie, so.
Amazing.
Oh, they all could, honestly, I had over 80 hours of film.
Wow.
Because I would film them all day. And the Palms, I was with them for 2 days. Yeah. So we had a tremendous amount of film to cut out.
Right.
For me, for doing it for the first time was a very difficult thing to do.
Oh, sure.
To hope that I got the bulk of the information and the feeling of the individual that would resonate with people watching. Because their stories, you're right, there's a lot more to tell with each one of them.
Have you had any continued contact with any of the people?
Yes, all of them.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I hang out with Celeste.
That's great.
And because she's nearby. And I talk to Sarah in New York on a regular basis. I talk to Karen in New York on a regular basis. I talk to Alelia. I talk to Susan, the voice of Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get in touch with most of them, and I'll email with Greta and the Palms, and yeah, it's
That's
been
amazing.
great. It's been great.
Brings up a point about friendship. When I have a very good friend on this call, and we talk about friendship. I met her, only a couple years ago, and there's this feeling that you can't make new friends in a sense after a certain age. Like most of our friends happen before we're 25 or something. There's studies on that.
Right.
And I think if you keep opening yourself up to new friendships of all levels at all ages, it is going to just invigorate you and always give the different perspectives and the joy, and people need to know you too. That's the thing. Like we all need to know each other. It's a two-way street.
Exactly.
So I think just opening yourself up to new friendships and experiences is really key.
Yeah, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
Because when I worked corporately, I was on a train. So my friends were many people that I worked with, or people that lived far away that I used to live near, but we stayed in touch. But you're right, this has allowed me to open the door to many, many more women. It's been amazing. Even women that I've met at film festivals
Mhm.
that I clicked with because I was there for a long time, and I still talk with them years later.
Right.
And more, I almost more meaningful friendships,
Mhm.
deeper. And maybe that's what I'm, not that the others aren't meaningful,
Mhm.
but deeper connections because of the ages that we are and because of what they're willing to share.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing.
Exactly. I wanted to bring in Sheila Brogan and Beth Abbott, if either or both of you are able to just share any thoughts with Melissa and the group about your work with Age Friendly Ridgewood. It's a wonderful organization in town. I'm going to put the website in the chat.
Oh, thanks, Roberta. Oh, Melissa, this was fabulous. I thoroughly enjoyed your movie.
Oh, I'm so glad.
In my life as a worker, I'm a social worker, geriatric social worker, and so touched by stories I hear. But to listen to the stories of these 9 women, amazing. And it does point to their resiliency. So Age Friendly Ridgewood is started about 5 years ago, and our goal is to make sure that older adults in Ridgewood have a voice. And as I'm sitting there, everybody I meet has a story to tell about something, whether it's about Ridgewood or their life or their kids or their grandchildren, and that giving a voice to give you that ability to be resilient, to be looked at as somebody, is so important. And I think that's really what we're after. And we do a lot of things, partnership with the library, but this was an amazing evening. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm humbled every time I get to do anything like this. So, I didn't even know if I could make a movie. So, the fact that it resonates with people the way it has resonated with me is that's really helpful for me in understanding what I am able to create, and that I can draw people out so that they will feel comfortable telling their stories, because you're right, everybody has a story. And I am blown away by how many people, again, would allow me to do that for them, and trust me. I still, I can't quite get over that sometimes.
Yeah, amazing. I don't know if Beth is still here. I know she was traveling, so don't think she's on. But is this, as I sit here, I'm also on the school board, and I think that what a film this would be for our students to see as well. Because you know what? I thought, as I sat here, I think it gives you hope for the future. It gives you hope to age, and that aging isn't that scary thing, and that ability to say no, to be able to say, this is what I want to do now. I don't have to worry about my peers. like I
Right.
do in high school. Or
Exactly.
middle age, yeah.
And
Mhm.
several of the women were saying a similar line there about, getting comfortable to the point where you can just do what you want to do and not worry about what other people think,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know? So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I have to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How to bring that forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But when I told my own mother, that I was showing this film, and she had a meeting tonight, but she gave me permission to share her thing when she was 50. She did all different things growing up and raised the four of us. But at 50, she went back to school. She wanted to become a chaplain.
Oh, wow.
So during that time, she was doing her program at NYU Medical, and I was working in the city at the time. So we literally were commuting together into the city, and
Wow.
in the car at 5:30 in the morning. It was amazing. And I just saw her like at 50, early mid 50s, and just working around the clock. And she was on call overnight. Sometimes she'd have to, to go back into the city if she had a call. And then she became the head of the chaplain department at Valley Hospital here in town for a while. And it was just amazing just to see that tenacity. And I always knew she was like such an alpha in her life, but to
Yeah.
actually see it in action at that time was really amazing. And now
Yeah.
I'm around that age right now, and I thought, oh my gosh, like what if I was doing that now? Just
Yeah.
again.
You had a good role model.
Yeah, it's amazing. So so it's I don't know. I just hope a lot of people are just going to seek out these stories too. And Melissa, I hope you're just going to keep having opportunities. Like I love the idea for your next film. I
Yeah.
really hope that the funding works out for that.
Yes. I have my fingers crossed.
Yes,
And
definitely.
it's a great story. So.
Yeah.
So if we want to have people see the film and we want to share it with our friends and daughters and anybody, what's the best way for us to do that? What do we tell them to do?
The film is available now on demand. So for instance, if you had Comcast or Verizon cable, you'd go to your on-demand section and put it in the search bar. If you don't watch movies that way, it is on almost every streaming platform. So to either rent or buy, like Apple TV, iTunes, Google TV, Microsoft TV, Vudu, Vimeo,
Mhm.
so YouTube TV, all of those have it streaming right now where you can go in and either rent it or buy it.
Thank you.
So you know what I'll do, to Melissa in the group, on Friday, I'm going to send everybody, we are recording this conversation. So I'll send everyone a link to this conversation, and
Great.
and then I'll send a list of those platforms with the link, and then you
Okay.
can watch it. And I know we had some questions about watching it closed caption, so you'll definitely be able
Yes,
to do that. So
I did send out a note to Mark tonight. So,
wonderful. Yeah. So I will make sure everybody who registered tonight has that information.
okay, great.
Great.
Yes, spread the word.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and Mark, who is my agent slash distributor, said if anybody is willing to write a review, please do so. I hate asking, but he's made me a little more comfortable with that. And there's the IMDb page
Yeah.
under my page, and it says Beyond 60. They have a space there to leave, even if you just check off the stars. And also on Amazon, where you would buy books and DVDs,
Mhm.
there's a section there to leave as well. We have Facebook page, if you can go on there and like that and follow that.
And the Beyond 60 webpage is outstanding, and it has a wonderful overview of each of the women, which is
Yeah.
okay.
So if anybody has the oomph to do that, it's greatly appreciated. And apparently it helps us in some way,
Good.
to get our numbers up. And I don't know the rankings. I don't pay attention to any of that,
Yeah.
but he does. So.
It does. Yeah, wonderful. Before we go, does anyone have any final questions or comments?
I just had a comment.
Yes.
I know here. I don't want to scare anybody. I love, I'm 74 and I have 4 friends that are in their 80s that are absolutely amazing and kind of just solidified what these women in their 60s said. And I hope, like Gloria Steinem, she wrote the book Turning 70 and then she updated it. I hope that you would do one about 80 and 90-year-old
Yeah.
women about how amazing they are. My 2 older ones, who's 89 and 87 and a half, gonna be 88, we have lunch every other week, and they certainly teach me how to age gracefully
That's
and be still part of the community. But we, like you said, we can talk about everything. They talk about dying, they talk about, their contribution and how they want to be more relevant even at this point.
exactly.
So, well, I'd love to see more. This
That's
was
interesting.
fabulous. And I think I'd like my children to see it.
Good.
When
Make
they
sure
say,
they watch it.
you shouldn't do that.
Just watch this, kids.
Yeah, exactly.
no, that's a
I'm
good
just getting
point.
started.
Some of the women in the film were in their 80s. There are 2 in their 80s and a couple in their 70s and the rest in their 60s. But
Yeah.
I am talking with a filmmaker in India right now who is very interested in me making some type of a platform online where we would be hearing from women over the age of 60 till 100 from all different countries.
Wow, that would be great.
So we're playing around with that idea and how that would work. And you could tune in and you could hear the questions of the week. And then you would hear people from 5 different countries giving you their experiences around that issue. So that could happen too. But that's a
Thank
really
you.
good idea. You're welcome. Because there are so many stories.
Right.
There's just so many stories out
So
there.
much we can learn from these women.
Right.
Because
right.
we, being the top of the baby boomers, it's like we have to learn as we go along. I mean, sometimes we laugh among ourselves because, it keeps repeating itself. It's like, oh gosh, women go through menopause and we're going, yeah, we did that, but it had to be quietly.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's funny.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes, thank you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this has been amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you invited me. I'm so glad that you found the film. And
I am so glad to. I knew this would be a hit. We are definitely going to be following, and I think I'm just going to do all of this tonight and send you the recording tonight and the information so you can, get the good word out. And I just thank you for following your own instincts and passion. Like it's just, I don't know. It's never too late to just start.
Right.
It's not, yes, it's not about the age. It's about the attitude and another thing my mother had shared with me, keeping an active mind and body and spirit as a given to the aging process.
Yes.
But don't forget humor. That might be the most important ingredient of all.
I totally agree with her.
All of these women who had some extraordinarily devastating situations, they have such spirit and such humor.
Yeah.
I think you've got that too. It's just, it just keeps us going. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
Great
so
experience.
Melissa, and thank you, Sheila and Beth, for the work you're doing with Age Friendly, and all of you who did and asked such thoughtful questions. Just a wonderful, inspiring night.
And
yes.
And next,
thank you.
Next up on July 14th at 10 a.m., we are showing My Octopus Teacher with the director, Academy Award-winning director, Pippa Ehrlich. She'll be zooming in from South Africa. So stay tuned. I'll send out some emails about that.
That's awesome.
Thank you all. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Wonderful.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.